By the time you're done with this video, you're going to feel like a pirate with all the R7 you'll be applying. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today, we're going to talk about Relic 7 and what you can do for your roster on characters that aren't required, but should still be Relic 7. Things that are going to take you probably to the next level. I'm sure of it, folks. And the other thing I'm sure of is my patrons are awesome. Thank you guys so much. You're all Relic 7 in my book. Some of you are even Relic 8, I think. As far as I know, you are. Let me know if you're not, and I'll still believe otherwise. Now, if you want to support this channel for free, guys, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, comment, mount the algorithm, folks. It's only Relic 5. Let's get it to 7 ourselves. That's the first Relic 7 on the list. Now, let's talk about, whoa, how we're in the game suddenly. This is madness. Who said how did we get here? That's so neat. That's kind of neat. All right, Relic 7. Relic 7, your Galactic Legends. Please put Relic 8 on all of them except for Kenobi. Kenobi's the one that can be at Relic 7 and still thrive and function. Guys, this is a weird unwritten rule that the community has kind of just adopted. If you have an account with all Relic something on your Galactic Legends, Kenobi can be on a functional level one lower and he's fine. Which means something, I suppose. I don't really know, guys. He's he's just really good. He ramps damage really nicely, so Relic 8 wouldn't be bad, but 7 is all he needs. But seriously, guys, Relic 8, all of your Galactic Legends, if you can. Remember, they all get this boost. Every single Relic amplifier level they get 10% more health and protection, which is immense and non-insubstantial number. Now, before we get any deeper, I do want to mention this is not a discussion on characters that should go to 7, but not 8. A lot of these characters would really love to be Relic 8. In fact, this is more of a discussion of, okay, first off, it's non-urgent. A lot of times, sometimes it is, but a lot of these characters are not requirement characters at Relic 7 or 8. This is a discussion of, here's some reasons to give more Relic levels to these characters that maybe you didn't understand quite how it works and quite how they function and operate, because a lot of these characters are, like I said, they're not requirements, or at least not requirements at Relic 7, but a lot of times you're going to see some overlap. I put a video out for Relic 8s about, like 3 months ago, and a lot of these characters made that list back then as well. This is just a list of well, here are characters that I think you're going to benefit from, and maybe here's some reasons why you should actually put them at Relic 7. So, Relic 7, you could also put him at 8, obviously, but Beskar Mando, he's probably the only requirement character on this entire list that's required at Relic 7, but Bo-Katan Mandalore is, she's new enough that a lot of people are just going to disregard her and not work on her, and I don't actually advise people to be working really hard on getting her requirements. Maybe start farming them slowly in the background, but nothing too strenuous, because she's not required for anything yet. That may change soon, we don't know, but anyways, Beskar Mando, a lot of times people keep his relics lower so that he can go, so that his ship can go after Cad Bane. They want Cad Bane to be higher relics because, and here's the thing, guys, you can get a nearly 100% win rate with your in your Executor mirror matches without any of that weird turn order finagling from your relic levels between Bando and Cad. I'll try to put a link. I don't even know if I can. You guys can just search it. The mirror match for Executor. You just have to do it in a weird way, but it's really easy. Once you figure out the method, you do not need those layered abilities. I'll try to link it in the video description, but I'm working on a time frame that's fairly narrow, so if I run out of time, I apologize. Maybe someone else can at least find the name of the video. I don't know if you can link it, but put the name of the video, and I'll pin it at some point if I see that. But if I haven't posted it in the video description. Anyways, I've talked about the video too much. The other reason you want him at Relic 7 or higher, folks, is just because he's very stat hungry. He wants to be a little survivable. He also wants to deal. He's a damage dealer. A lot of people don't really see him as that. They see him as like this weird like tank healer where he just keeps people alive, and that he does have that function. But the other thing is, whistling birds are only worthless for the people who don't mod him the right way. If you mod him to have a lot of offense and a lot of speed, then you're really going to benefit. And the more relics you have on him, he's hitting 20 times, guys. Those, and they ignore armor. Those whistling birds ignore armor, which is more and more prevalent in our current Datacron weird meta phase. So the more damage you can deal with his whistling birds, the better. I'm not even going to mention his amazing Datacron that he currently has, except I just did by saying I wasn't going to mention it. Now, Admiral Trench is one of those characters that, look, I know he's not the pinnacle of awesomeness, guys. I know that he's only half of a spider and you prefer full spider characters. I know that you prefer relics that aren't swagger sticks. There's all sorts of reasons not to relic Trench. Here's the thing about it, though. If you've been following all the other requirements in the game, you're about, like, okay, so if you have all the other unlocks, if you've unlocked all the Galactic Legends, you already have a fully Relic 7 team with Trench, except for Trench himself. And that team is amazing his team is great in territory battles. It's great in GAC sometimes, in territory wars. If you put one Omicron on him, he's amazing. He does a lot of really cool stuff. And there's like this weird bias against him. I think he's going to be required for a capital ship here soon anyways, being as he is an admiral. Whoa, I pushed the escape button and it left. That was madness. All right. Anyways, you already have his team. And I know a lot of people are like, but I don't want to use Watt here. Where else do you need him other than on his Trench team now? Now that we're getting Bane for Sith Eternal Emperor, you don't need a babysitter for Sith Eternal Emperor. Maybe you want him for Supreme Leader Kylo. You can be flexible, but gosh, guys, Trench with his full team is very impressive. And they don't kill Galactic Legends really, but it's a worthwhile team, and you're gonna want him relics anyways. I would at the very minimum be trying to make sure you have him unlocked and ready to relic. But I think Relic 7 on him, his whole team is already at Relic 7 or higher, so you should do it. Okay, Sweatstain Ben. Here's a lot of people just say it. They're like, oh yeah, he keeps Rey alive, and that's what they see him. He gets stun locked a lot if they're using Starkiller against him, and if they're not using Starkiller, he is a really tough guy to control. Even if they're using Starkiller, if they make a mistake and he gets to do a couple of his big hits, he starts doing some crazy things. In GAC, guys, he hits under protection, and he does an immense amount of damage. He does the armor shred. He does 4 turns of whatever, healing immunity. Lots of cool stuff that he does. And absolutely get him up to 7 or 8 if you can, and make him your opponent's problem. You place him on defense, or you put him on offense, and you start one-shotting people because you ignore their protection. People are like, I have 200,000 protection. And he's like, I just one-shot you because you don't have any health. And it's awesome. He talks a lot of crap despite being light side. That's another reason we like him. All right? Quill's one of those characters that he loves his stats. This is something I talk about him periodically, guys. The only reason we don't all have him at Relic 9 immediately, or at least want him at Relic 9, is he hasn't found the right scoundrel or droid team that's really strong. But the thing about Quill that a lot of people don't realize is he shares his stats like crazy with whatever team he's good with. At the start of the battle, he gives droid and scoundrel allies 40% of his max health, offense, potency, and max protection. Amazing. He does a lot of other cool stuff, but just those stats alone, I mean, I know that we're not mathematicians here, except some of you are, so I don't know why I generalized that at all. But like this health, 40% of this health, it's not an amazing number, but 40% of it is not child's play. It's what 24 health, 24k health to everyone on his team. And is that it? 10% is 6, 12. Yeah, okay. Yep, protection is also a number. And then he also gives him 40% of his offense. I mean, it's 2,000 offense. That's a lot easier in my mind. 2,000 offense for everyone. That's a crazy amount, guys. Or even if it's special damage, what's his special? Oh, he's giving 4,000 special damage to people. It's a lot, guys. And the more relics you give him, the better his stats are going to be, and the more he's going to share. It's a lot of fun. So more relics for Quill, if you can find him. Oh, and then Seer. Guys, this is a weird one that I see people ignoring all the time, and I don't know why. If they have Jedi Cal, they're like, hey, I got Jedi Cal to 7 or 8, whatever, and then they don't put Seer to 7 because apparently they hate their guild. Guys, I know that you have a guild that can get to Baraka, which is only phase 2, and earn your guild some GET2. This is one of the easiest ways to do it, and her team is really strong anyways. She's a strong character. You're going to want her for a lot of different reasons, and Relic 7 is not that big of an ask, in my opinion, to be able to help your guild unlock Zepho and earn some GET2. That'll help your entire guild eradicate the Cairo crunch and embrace the the signal data crunch instead. Malicos, I don't know why I need to even mention him, guys. He's got a tattoo on his chest. I mean, that should be enough. Like, why wouldn't you Relic 7 anyone who's got a tattoo on his chest? And you know, I think the frown he has is concern that he's gonna run out of rocks or enemies. He doesn't know which one he's gonna run out of first. Throwing rocks to destroy his enemies, or enemies to destroy before he's thrown all of his rocks. He's done a lot of cool stuff against Galactic Legends, and the one complaint about him, guys, I mean, clearly I'm a GAC guy. I love GAC, so I have him at Relic 8 on all 3 of my accounts, with all 3 Zetas, all 3 Omicrons, and all 6 E-mods. He's just because he's such a fun character. He kills Galactic Legends like crazy in 3s and in 5s. Does a lot of stuff. My only complaint is obviously he's not quite as good in the other game modes. He still does decently, and he's an UFU character, unaligned force user, so he's going to find a team. And I mean, he does a lot of damage. He does more damage with his Omicrons, of course. So definitely, I just see a lot of people leave him on their roster, and they're like, yeah, I'll gear him when I gear him. And I get that. We have a lot of requirements. He's not a requirement, but man, if you want to GAC well, he's a guy. He's a guy to do it. Iden is one. She's making all the lists right now. Every list, and so I'll try to keep it brief. First off, she's amazing in the raid. Obviously, the raid will go away eventually. She'll stop being relevant there, but she'll still be relevant on your roster elsewhere, including she's got one of the most important ships in the game right now. It helps you counter the Profundity, which is the best fleet in the game. So that alone makes her relic worthy. The other reason you want to put relics on her is, I mean, she just does a lot of damage. She does a lot of damage. Her squad is still pretty strong, and I mean, there's just, like, she hits all the different components. She's good at the raid. She's good at fleets in one of the best ways. She's good in squads, and she goes in a ton of different versions of Imperial squads. So very worthwhile character, in my opinion. Definitely worth a look at 7 or 8 if you can do it. Mace is another one of those that makes all the lists because he's so stat hungry. He wants to do more damage, though he doesn't do that much damage. He does damage based off a small amount of damage based off his max health. So I mean, it's 5% of his max health. It's not that much, guys. But he wants as much potency on him as he can, as much offense and as much health as he can, because he's a tank. And I mean, Relic 5 is an embarrassment, guys. I would love to get him higher. His Omicron is really strong. Eventually, we'll get his Omicron as well. But he's just one of those characters who does all the things, guys. He does ability block on basic, so you really want that potency so that you can land it. You want to be able to stun people with this and to be able to dispel things. You want to call people to assist with this one. He reduces people's max health and defense with Shatterpoint, wherever the hell the actual rule for Shatterpoint is. So the one that I just can't find. He's a tank, so he wants to be able to not be killed every time he gets hit. He wants all the stats, guys. Plus, all the relics are being dumped into a capital ship pilot, which I know that his capital ship isn't that impressive now, but it did get a small rework recently, and I have to think that they're going to keep releasing a few ships here and there that are going to keep boosting that fleet to the point where maybe it's not quite as good as Negotiator, who knows, but it seems like it's going to be more and more relevant as we continue along. Increasingly relevant is a good thing. Now, Cad Bane, here's another one, guys. You want him high relics if you can as well. It used to be like, hey, he's good in the crate raid. Obviously, crate raid is gone now, but he's got a lot of tags, actually. He's in the Hutt Cartel. He's a scoundrel. He's a bounty hunter. All of those things. Really, at the end of the day, he's not going to be used for any of those other than his ship. And I'm a big believer, guys, in making your very relevant ships higher relics and at least 6E mods, just because they do a lot more damage. Like I said before, Bando doesn't really care if who's faster between the two of them. Cad Bane having a faster ship is, in a lot of ways, it makes it simpler, certainly, that fight, but that's not really the reason you want to do it anyways. Cad Bane is piloting his ship is probably the most pivotal, important ship in the entire Executor fleet, and the Executor can counter every single fleet out there. So definitely worth a look on Cad Bane. Jedi Revan, whew, okay, so we get in fights about this sometimes. People are like, you only need him at like Relic 3, Relic 5 at the most. Here's the thing, guys, he's also stat hungry. I've made a few videos saying this, he's the best legendary character out there. Not Galactic Legend, but for like pound for pound, he is the best. In my opinion, he's the best character out there besides Galactic Legends. It's a different argument in that, or debate in that regard, but guys, he does things in this game that no one other character can. He's been in this game for years and years at this point, but he can target a character and mark them. They can't have buffs. He can ignore taunt, by the way, mark someone, then everyone else on his team, it doesn't matter who they are, can then attack that character for 2 turns. Meanwhile, he can stun them, and if they have bonus protection, then you'll also reduce their max health and protection. Or maybe it's just... is it just their max health? I don't remember, but it makes it so that they die really easily. He passes a turn, and it swaps turn meter. I think he's the first character that actually did that, and it cleanses his whole team. He does some damage here. He's actually hits way harder than people actually kind of think he does, but he does all this stuff. He keeps a Jedi alive with Savior. Like he has the original Savior ability. That's why everyone says like, oh, Malicos has a Savior ability. It's not because Malicos' kit calls it Savior. It's because Jedi Revan was the first to do it with an ability called Savior. All that being said, you want him to be able to keep up with all of your modern Jedi, and he is fairly squishy. You want him to be able to, like, he's already kind of fast anyways, so you make him fast, you give him lots of health and protection if you can, and there's arguments for doing health or protection for him, actually, even though he's one of the lowest natural health characters in the game, or sorry, protection characters in the game. There's an argument for protection. We don't need to go there, though. The thing is, he is a monster, and if he dies prematurely, it sucks in a way that's disproportionate to just one character dying. He is just the linchpin on whatever team he's on. Whether you believe it or understand it or not, he does an immense amount of work, and you should protect him. Therefore, giving him more than Relic 5, I'm making this impassioned plea, and yet my alt has gotten, he's just stayed at Relic 5 on my alt. My other little account, he's only at Relic 1. Because he's so strong, you forget how impactful he can be at higher levels. And I dare you guys, put him at Relic 7. You won't regret it. You really won't. Malicos may. Who knows, man? He's not a nice guy. Now, Aphra, let's start picking up our pace on these guys. Aphra, she's wonderful. She does a lot of cool stuff. She has a cool datacron, but she's really good. Otherwise, here's the thing. If she doesn't have her crazy datacron, her opponents are going to hit her. And if she's only Relic 5, first off, you're modding her as potency as potency heavy as you can. Which means a lot of times you're not focusing on health and protection. You need her to survive. No one on her team is going to revive her. They'll all be like, oh, well, that sucks that she's dead. But that's it. That's all that's going to happen. If one of her droids dies, she's like, yeah, I'll revive you. I like you. And the droids are like, we will not repay that favor, B. Like, they just don't care. They're like, those goggles are dumb. And they're not, but the droids think so. So here we are. She wants to be survivable, guys, and the way you get survivability on her, if your modding is already wrapped up in potency, the way you get Aphra her survivability, you mod her where you can with that. But see, I just have offense here because I wanted more potency. I have some protection. You want her You just give her more relic levels. More relic levels means more living. And more living means more not being dead. So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what does. BT-1 wants relic levels for a different reason. He deletes people, and you want him to delete them as hard as possible. He just does a crazy amount of damage, and every relic level he gets just makes it worse for your opponents. Not to mention, you want the whole team to be Relic 7 eventually for her. Well, it's just a combat mission on Dathomir, but it's still good. I mean, Relic 7 on him. Relic 8 is even more crazy for him. I would say Relic 7 for Aphra is mostly enough. If you can choose Relic 8 between her and BT-1, I'd probably go with BT-1 to be able to get him to Relic 8. But if you can get them both to 8, that's even better. Obviously, guys. So, let's see, what's next? Bossk. Here's one that... my main account has him at Relic 9, and there have been times that I've regretted 9 at times, but in reality, here's the thing. If you mod Bossk the right way, lots and lots and lots of protection, he's actually going to survive against Maul and his barrage of hits if you're facing like a Lord Vader team, if you're trying to off-meta it. If he's Relic 9, he's going to survive that. Obviously, we don't have to get Relic 9 for him, but the other thing is, guys, one of the most impactful, important tanks in the game, starting day 1, you want this tank, you want the Houndstooth to be good, and so even if you just get him, like, Bossk should be one of your first relic levels in the whole game. Starting fresh, starting new account, Bossk should be one of your first relic levels because you want your Houndstooth to be unkillable because it's one of the most unstoppable, amazing, tilting tanks to face out there. And yes, eventually it'll just be another cog in the machine of the Executor, but the higher relic level you can have on Bossk, the more survivable he is, obviously. And as a tank, he really likes those extra relic levels because he turns his protection. He gets extra protection here. He turns that and gives himself more as a leader with his lead. But then on top of that, he's making his ship better. It's just a win. The wins just keep coming, guys. It's a spamming wins thing. Plo Koon, we've talked about him a ton lately. I'll try to be brief. You want him Relic 7 or 8 to be able to make your negotiator be able to delete your opponent's Executor, like the triple attacker Executor team. If you have Negotiator and you have the Marauder, the new ship, the Bad Batch ship, then the Marauder needs to be able to taunt right away. The only way you can make that happen, though, is with Plo Koon assigning it. His ship, though, is always going to be slower than IG-88 unless he's Relic like 7 or 8 himself, making his ship the fastest one out there, assigning the taunt so that the Marauder can take all the damage, and then the Marauder does take the damage, and then you delete the Executor, triple attacker Executor fleet. The other awesome thing is he then at Relic 8 fills in really nicely with Starkiller squads because a lot of times you're using Old Ben with Leia these days, and you don't Old Ben doesn't have time for old Starkiller anymore, so instead we're giving him this. Are those ears? Does he have ears? I'm not sure if that's what those are, but he's pretty neat, guys. Relic 8, never thought I'd see the day. Not to mention, he has a Dispel on basic. That's pretty amazing, guys. And then if it's like he gets defense up, he gives his whole team turn meter. I mean, lots of cool stuff, but higher relics because of his interactions in fleet. And now Hondo is one of those guys that you only need him at 5 to unlock Aphra, and obviously I've gone the route of just keeping him at 5, but I'll eventually get him to 7 because he does more damage at 7, obviously, but then he ramps damage, and the ramping really, really benefits from having a higher base amount of damage to do. So get him a couple more relic levels so that he ramps higher. His ceiling gets higher because of because of his base amounts of damage, and he's one of those stat-hungry characters that can really just run the table if your opponent isn't prepared for it, guys. So Hondo, pretty memorable character there. Okay, Baze. He's one of those characters who, well, he first off, he gets 20% of his max health. So for every relic level you get, you get more health, and it gets more percentage. That's not really the reason to do it, though, guys. He is just He's a unit, man. He's really tough to kill at higher relic levels, and he's been out forever. I think he came out like right as I was starting the game, like way back in the day. And guys, his utility is just so good, and the teams he goes on. First off, now you want him on Leia's squad, you want him on the Saw team, you want him on Rogue One. Like, he is in demand. You really want to get Baze, and he doesn't cost Kyrotech, guys. He's one of those guys who makes all the lists. He has 2 specials that just destroy buffs, and in this buff heavy environment, it's just a really helpful thing. He gains a ton of turn meter passively, which is really nice. You don't have to make him fast, and he's got really high stats even at Relic 7. What's he got? Well, maybe that's not impressive, but these days. But I probably don't have them the best modded. But man, he is just really strong. He's in demand, and higher relics means he survives longer and keeps the people he's protecting alive. And all you have to do is mod him. He's really simple to mod. Just a ton of health or a ton of protection, depending on where he goes. Royal Guard, guys. If you have Lord Vader, don't embarrass yourself by having a Relic 3 Royal Guard or even a Relic 5 Royal Guard. I don't have Lord Vader on this account, so I'm giving myself immunity, but get him to 7. It is a noticeable difference between 3 to 5 to 7. Even the step from 7 to 8 is a pretty nice one. And guys, he is a unit as well. He's very tough to kill, and Lord Vader, whether you think he's awesome or not, needs some time to be able to start building up, and Royal Guard's the guy who gives it to him. Not to mention he's a pilot for a pretty decent ship, in fact. Imperial Super Commando, probably him and Gar Saxon, both representative. I don't know, this is one of those, like, well, think about it. If you have Maul available, this team is going to be able to delete a lot of stuff. And not to mention his ship is also somewhat important for a few different things. But I've kept him at lower relics just because I want want my Empire to be able to counter the Empire, or the Executor fleets. I'm trying to remember which one. Oh, Profundity. That's what it is. So I've kept him lower relics, but also Mandalorians are going in the direction of you really want them to have higher relics so they can just delete people together, and ISC really facilitates that with his reworked unique, and it's fairly fun. So gear 12 on them, that's probably acceptable, but consider Relic 7. A lot of the bigger guilds are making it mandatory Relic 7 or even 8 in their guild. Death Trooper is one of those characters whose stock keeps rising. His ship kind of sucks, so that's not the reason to do it, but he's always wanted to be on Iden teams. He really goes well with her. Otherwise, he's really good with Imperial Remnant as well. And then he's got just a lot of cool stuff, guys. He dazes on basic with a few shenanigans and whatever, but he also does, and he's assisting a lot depending on the team he's on. He also has a Mass Dispel that increases cooldowns if they didn't have buffs in the first place. It applies healing immunity, which is very helpful. He has long-term, he's one of the very few characters who can at will apply Death Mark to a character, and then it kills them permanently, whether they die from the Death Mark or just from this shot itself. They die permanently, which is really nice. And then he goes, I feel like Krennic has flirted with greatness. I feel like they keep making his kit. Krennic he like lives his quote. He said, if we were this close to greatness, and that's what Krennic is. He's just never that good. But Death Trooper always makes him almost good. So yeah, he goes, this is just an in-demand character these days, guys. You want him for the raid as well, kind of. He's not great for the raid. He's not the best one for the raid, but you won't regret having a fully functional Imperial Remnant team either, folks. Resistance Hero Finn, he does a lot of damage. You want more damage with him. You want him to survive because he's pretty squishy. Lots of reasons to give him relics, but they're pretty straightforward. Like, just have him hit harder, have him survive harder. It's great. Good job, buddy. And then, all right, I think I have 5 more here, folks. Let's see. All right, Vandor Chewie. He does damage with his special based on his max health instead of his max damage. He's also stays alive really well. You want more health on him. So like at the start of the turn or start of the match, he just gets 80% more max health. So whatever your health is, just plus 80% of it. And so the more relics you get, obviously, you're going to be adding health, which is really nice. And then, guys, his damage is... like, usually he's the one who does the killing blow. It's like, oh yeah, Dash does a lot of damage, and Vandor's like, hold my beer. I will do it. I will headshot this person. And I think it's because he doesn't have a bowcaster. He's using some kind of high-powered rifle. He just headshots people, man. It's very impressive. The damage this does, it always surprises when I do streams. People are like, oh my gosh, that was so much from Vandor. I'm like, yeah, dude. Of course, he hits hard, man. And he does shower scenes. Jyn is one of those characters that, man, the Adrad team their stock keeps rising because they keep releasing Imperial teams, and Jyn is at the crux of that. She does a lot more damage with with higher relics, and that damage, I mean, right now she has an Omicron or Datacron that makes her good, but otherwise, man, she's just a good utility character, and she wants more relics, and I'm more and more impressed by the Adrad team because they just keep destroying things that it seems like they shouldn't be able to, but they kill Inquisitors if you have them modded correctly. They kill the new Imperial Remnant team. No, maybe not with the current Datacron sets, but they do go toe-to-toe with them. They beat the Iden teams out there. It's very impressive. Savage is one of those characters who, at Relic 5, he does well. At Relic 7, he shines. He does more damage. He does more surviving. He's an impressive guy and probably deserves Relic 7 or 8 or 9, something like that. Dark Trooper, he punches people right in the face. He's lazy enough that he preserves all his power. He just rockets over to his opponent. He's like, hello there. And then he punches them right to the face. It's pretty impressive. And the more Relic levels he does, the harder he punches. Pretty cool. Darth Traya, guys. She's... okay, so I recently told people, guys, get your Traya to relics. For the love of God. Gear 12 is great. She's going... you probably have a lot of instances of her failing. You probably have a lot of instances of her succeeding at Gear 12, and you think that she's just going to succeed, can continue to succeed. You want her to go to relics. At least get her to Relic 5. I'm here to tell you, she also loves to be Relic 7 or 8. She wants to survive even harder if she can. And the other thing that people don't realize is, especially with her Omicron, she does an immense amount of damage as well herself with her Saber Storm. Even her basic, like I'd recently on my main account got her to Relic 9, and I just keep being surprised. I'm like, you killed more people than Nihilus did. It's very impressive. She has some crazy hard hits, and she also does some crazy hard surviving, and you've got to hand it to her. She really does a good job of surviving. So let's give her a hand and call this video done. Guys, thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Zareth prevails.